What is going on? It is Nate the Game Guy coming back with another video at hand, and today I want to talk to you guys about should you downsize your game collection. As you guys can see right behind me, I have a pretty large game collection. If you've already been a subscriber of mine for a while, you clearly know what I am dealing with. Clearly, this isn't the biggest game collection in the world, but it is a game collection where I sometimes have had to think, should I downsize? And I realize for some, this may be a subject that isn't really fun to talk about. However, it can be necessary depending on your circumstances. Of course, I'll be sharing some of my thoughts and my opinions on the matter of when it may or may not be necessary to downsize your game collection. So without further ado, let's jump right into this video subject right after the intro. So starting off, I want to talk about why you may even consider downsizing your game collection in the first place. And one of the big things that comes to my mind is organization. Let's face it, an organized game collection and an organized game room just makes things so much easier for you in so many different ways. Clearly, it allows you to go through your game room and be able to go through with quick ease. It helps you be able to find some of the games that you may own and may not own when you are game collecting and game hunting, and of course, when you want to pick up and play a game itself. Let's face it, organization is very important for a game room and your game collection, right? I mean, I can't think of like all the problems I would get into, like if none of my stuff was organized, I just throw it up onto a shelf, nothing's alphabetized, or if you decide to organize in a different way or manner, depending on series or genre or whatever the case may be. Let's face it, when you have your stuff organized, it just makes things so much easier. Now, of course, when downsizing your game room, you really do have to think about organization, is because after all, if you don't have it organized, obviously you can't find your stuff, and of course, you can't navigate through your game room on extreme circumstances. So when it comes to downsizing, that is something to consider about, is keeping things organized, because after all, so many benefits when you have everything all set up in line, it's good to go, and just everything's good. But you know, if you just keep adding and adding and adding and adding, obviously you might be running into some problems that can really give you quite a bit of a headache later on down the line. Now, of course, that reminds me of another thing that's worth talking about, and I'm going to give a little tip about this, and that is don't buy stuff to fill up space. Because after all, when you are buying stuff to fill up space, that only accelerates the oncoming issue of when you may have to downsize at some point. For those that have been watching my videos for a little while now, you obviously know that this is a piece of advice that I have shared from time to time. And originally this piece of advice I learned, if I remember correctly, from an older Pete Door video. And it is very true. For someone who's been collecting video games for a very long time, let me tell you something. Don't buy stuff to fill up space. Trust me, trust me. Trust me, you'll fill up space over time if you keep game collecting. So there's no need to buy stuff to fill up the space. No need to pick up that game that you just know you're not going to be able to play, or put in some filler titles, or whatever the case may be, right? Just make sure that if you are someone such as myself, who essentially collects everything and tries to complete as many sets as possible, try to make sure what you're getting yourself into. Make sure that obviously you have the space. If for whatever reason you're running out of space, make sure that there is some form of space that you are able to put away, not keep on display, or whatever the case may be, is because, as mentioned from before, you got to keep things at a healthy minimum when it comes to keeping some of your stuff organized and just kind of set out. So, of course, when it comes to that regard, it is something worth thinking about and considering, because after all, don't fill up space to fill up, or don't buy stuff to fill up space, because as mentioned from before, you'll easily do it over time, so no need to rush it. So when exactly should you downsize? Well, ultimately, I think that's something that you can consider for yourself. After all, it is your game collection, it's your room, your layout. It's just, well, your everything, right? And unfortunately, there isn't really like a specific answer that I can personally give, because after all, it's your collection. And I'm just sharing my own opinion. I'm not telling people, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. I'm just sharing my own opinion on the matter, right? And when it comes to when you should downsize your game collection, ultimately, when I think of my personal game collection, here's what I take into account. Personally, I think of, am I able to navigate through the game room? Are there things like standing in the way that, keep me from going from one shelf to the next? Are there things such as games that I know that I'm not going to be able to play or want to play for a while? There's just a lot of things that I take into consideration as to what is a healthy median. Of course, do I have enough space on the shelf to add in that extra Wii game or that Nintendo 64 game or whatever console it may be, right? It's just something that I personally think of when it comes to my game collection. Now, of course, sharing my own opinion, those are a few things that I think that you guys should consider with your collections, right? Is, are you going to be wanting to play said game or whatever the case may be? Or is that something that you're going to want to have out? Is that something that you're even going to let alone want to keep? Are there things in the way that are preventing you from going to the shelf to pick up a game, such as some game accessories that are on the floor that you just don't have enough space to go to, especially those Guitar Hero and Rock Band drum sets? Those take up space. Trust me, I have one myself. They take up space, but of course, ultimately, it's your decision and ultimately your mindset as to what you should downsize on in the game room and your game collection. So let me talk about my game room for a moment when it comes to downsizing. If you've been following me for a while, you've already know that at some point I did have to do a bit of downsizing. Now, with my personal game room and my game collecting goals, I personally do not want to get rid of anything that goes into the collection. Once it goes into the collection, it is for me to keep for as long as I can, and I have just no intention of ever getting rid of it. Whether it's a game collectible or a certain game or just whatever it is, I don't plan on getting rid of it. However, I realized that at some point after seeing with my shelves, they just weren't they were filling up, and I just had games that I had to put on the floor just because they were just, there just wasn't any space for it. That's when I finally had to make the decision of, you know what, I'm going to just take these off the shelves and pack them away. So certain sections of the game room, I only have games for certain game consoles that I'm going to want to play. So such as games like Madden NFL 08 or Ride to Hell Retribution for like my Xbox 360 collection. Like those games I've got packed away because clearly I'm just not going to want to play them. At least if I do want to play them, there's not going to be anytime soon. So when it comes to my personal game collection, that's what I did, was I just packed some stuff away. I put it in a separate area that's not part of the display that you guys get to see in these videos. But ultimately, that was a decision that I decided to make for myself with my game collection. Now, of course, I'm not saying this is something that you guys have to do, but I do want to share some of my decisions that I've done with my game collection and all that wonderful stuff. Of course, I do go into a little bit in detail, more detail, about the downsizing of my game collection in this video right here, if you guys want to check that out. But yes, I did had to do a little bit of downsizing at one point, and it wasn't fun. I personally don't like downsizing, but sometimes, you know what, as someone who just likes to keep things organized, cleanly, and orderly in the game room, that was a decision that I did feel that I had to make. Alrighty, and that'll conclude my video for should you downsize your game collection. What do you guys think? Have you guys had to downsize at some point? What are your thoughts on the matter? Feel free to comment in the comment section down below. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. Of course, please do consider giving this video a like. Helps boost it up into the YouTube algorithm so more viewers such as you can find videos just like this. Of course, please do consider subscribing because I post a ton of content when it comes to game collecting tips, and other video game related subjects. So if that is something that interests you guys, please do consider subscribing. But if you're going to subscribe, don't forget to hit that bell notification button so that way you will be notified when I upload a video just like this. I hope you guys did enjoy the video, and I'll be seeing you guys next time.